Hello everybody, this is Syntax, and welcome again to my above ground layer. Even though that was a really dumb joke, don't worry, it should be the only one. At least I hope so. Thank you for joining me today, and welcome to episode 2 of Wargaming. And what we're wargaming today is an extension of episode 1, where I talked about frequencies and how it's going to change the way the world is. Now, I specifically stayed away from frequency healing because that is the one that's going to change us the most. Everybody understands if you can repair this meat suit and bring it back to 100% of what it is, it's going to make a huge difference. Now, I'm going to be using different phrases here like regeneration, rejuvenation, and things of that nature. I will try to explain everything as best as I can as we go along. If I get something wrong, if you have evidence to the contrary, or if you have evidence that supports what I'm saying, by all means, comment section below. I want to hear from you. Let's get the discussion started. Now, I'm going to be wargaming frequency healing because, like I said, it's going to change the most. And what's going to happen with the general public is finally allowed this technology. Anybody who looks into the quote-unquote conspiracy theories will find out very quick that frequency healing is a common thing. A lot of the old tech from back in the day, that's what it was about, frequencies. As I mentioned before, Nikola Tesla's work was about frequencies, energies, and waves. This I'm going to focus mainly on frequencies and how they affect the body. However, they all come together and it's just basic physics. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, go into episode 1. I go into that deeply. Now, originally, I had a whole bunch of pages here to go through. However, as I was previously recording this, I realized I'm just going over the same thing over and over and over again. So, this is going to be a little off the cuff. I'm going to use this as a reference, and I'm just going to go straight into the meat and potatoes of it. Now, what I'm still going to do is go over what's going to affect humanity socially, religiously, physically, mentally, and what institutions are going to either profit or loss through medical, military, financial, more political, everybody loves that one, and of course, family is very important. Now, before we get started too much, what is frequency healing? Frequency healing is using resonance of frequency to either match the frequency or use an opposite frequency to create a result. The easiest way to see this is if you know somebody who can tap one of their glasses and match the frequency with their voice and it explodes. That is matching frequencies to get a certain result. This has been done for a long time, people. However, most everybody has a very limited understanding of it. I myself can't do the math nearly as well as I'd like to, but I understand how it works. And if you don't, well, use what I just said. Now, I will say this as a side note. All of you who sit there and listen to binaural beats thinking that is going to do anything, if it is not one solid tone, one set of frequency in this ear, one frequency in this ear, you'll actually, I've done this before, you will get kind of a weird funky feeling inside your head because now your brain actually has 3 frequencies as it's trying to balance everything out. If it up, down, pitches and uses different instruments and all this, that is new age music. You are getting played. I don't know about you, but I hate getting played. If I want to get played, I wouldn't even be talking about this. I would just keep going to the pharmaceutical industry and start sucking down more of their petroleum-based byproducts that they try to pitch to everybody. Now, if you want to know what the frequencies are, you can actually see them on the macro level, even though if you wanted to truly see them, you look down on the quantum level, which they affect you at the quantum level. If you do the whole sand on a speaker and do a certain frequency, it will come out with a pattern. That's the easiest way to see it with your own eyes. That is the frequency. That is resonance. That is your base to start with. Now, understand also that this boils down to basic science. Absolutely basic science. Like I said in episode 1, physics is simple. Physicists want it to be hard because they want to be the ones, I'm so much better than everyone else because I can do this. Fuck you. We get it. You're book smart. The problem is, book smart people usually have very limited imagination. Without the imagination, you can't understand what the actual potential of this technology can do, nor do you really give a shit, because you're all about yourself. If I want to see a bunch of pretentious assholes, I'll go watch politics. Another one, like I mentioned before, the best way to see the frequency in action is the crystal. Now, with that one in particular, there's kind of a boom. There's not always a boom, okay? If you match the frequency of, say, a virus or a bacteria or whatever it might be, it will break down. The resonance piling back in on itself will cause it to break. The actual physical body can only handle so much resonance before it breaks, it shatters, it turns into goop. Believe it or not, a lot of those weapons you see in science fiction where it just turns people into goo, they're matching your frequency and you turn into a puddle. Yes, science fiction has actually got more right than you actually want to know. Now, how can frequency healing help your body regenerate? Understand it's regenerating, not rejuvenating. Okay, it's very simple. However, I do have to note that frequency is not a cure-all. It can do some amazing shit, but it is not a cure-all. Nothing is a cure-all, despite what the pharmaceutical industry wants to tell you. They want to say that if you put more petroleum up your butt, then you're going to be cured of something. No, they're treating you of the symptoms. They're not curing you. This cures. Frequency healing does actually cure. Now, I'd like to go over what's going to be happening socially when this technology is finally allowed in the general public. I don't want to say released because you can actually find it. When it is allowed to the general public on a mass scale. Socially speaking, there's going to be some really interesting stuff going on, mainly because people are going to think, oh, I can get messed up and I'll just regenerate my finger, my foot, my whatever the hell it is. No, it doesn't always work that way, people. Okay, will they be able to regenerate you? Sure, but you might be screaming the entire time. Keep that in mind. Now, I want you to see that one of the main things socially that frequency is going to be having on humanity is simply people are going to be a little more apt to do something stupid because, well, they're not going to mind. They're going to be able to seal themselves back up. If you look on the Trekkie treks and all the other crappy sci-fi, they have a handheld dermal regenerator, i.e. your skin. It will close your skin up from little cuts and bruises and whatever, which is going to be great for first aid. That's just going to be another piece in your first aid kit. Okay, cool. But it's also going to allow people to continue on with their own work a whole lot faster than they were before. Now, militarily speaking, this is going to be freaking huge, because people that have lost limbs and have been medically discharged will now be able to have their limbs regenerated and brought back in. Once they're fully regenerated and they've gone through the physical therapy so they can get full motion and movement back, guess what? You don't have to pay them to sit at home and scratch their ass. They will be able to go back in and do what you're paying them to do, which is going to actually help us in the long run, especially financially. But we're not going to get into the financial at this point yet. However, I want you to understand that a lot of folks are going to say, well, what about AI? AI is going to be taking over the battlefield. Well, that's a line of bullshit. AI is going to play its part, absolutely. But I want you to take this scenario. A man and a robot both get shot in the leg at the same point. Both have what could be considered arterial bleeds. At that moment, could the robot keep fighting? Yes, they're going to be static because the leg's not going to function. The man is going to have to either have somebody put a tourniquet on him or put a tourniquet on himself. Okay, fine. Once that tourniquet is on and he's not gushing blood anymore, he's going to be able to fight too. You take both those folks out of the field and you bring them back to whatever forward operating base. For the man, guess what? They're going to run the frequencies over. They're going to seal up that artery. Once they confirm the artery is sealed, they're going to release the tourniquet and then use the frequency to heal him up. He's back on his feet in maybe a day or two. With the robot, if you do not have the parts, it doesn't self-regenerate. Unless you're using nanotechnology, which I'm not even going to go into that one on Wargaming. Not yet. Maybe later. But now you have to remove the leg or try to repair it with like duct tape and baling wire. In other words, 90 mile an hour tape and 550 cord. You're going to try and patch it up, and it's not going to work right unless you actually have somebody who knows how to do it right. And if you don't have the parts, you're going to have to try and make them. If you don't have a spare leg, guess what? That thing's going to sit there. It's a $3 million doorstop now. It's terrible. So keep that one in mind. And the losses, the KIA on the battlefield are going to drop very low unless you're using extremely strong ordnance, which nobody's going to want to do because, well, politically speaking, that's bad. Here's where it's going to get really fun and also horrifying. When this technology is released, finally, to the general public across the world, certain religions who are based off fear, dominance, submission, and just want to rule over everybody, the leaders are going to have this technology, but they will publicly condemn it. It's the same thing as when some English queen had the only flushable toilet, but she demanded that everybody else still crap in the street. It's just nuts. It's just going to be that way. And these particular religious leaders, without the fear, will not be able to control those they try to dominate over. It's just the way it is. And they're going to condemn this technology, and they're going to be the ones trying to blow things up. They're going to be the ones trying to wreck all these buildings by setting them on fire or whatever it might be, because they do not want this technology released. However, they're going to be pushed by other folks that we're going to be getting into in a little bit of time here. So keep that in mind. Those are the ones who are going to be the most outraged. Oh, nobody should have this technology. It's an affront to this. It's an affront to that. Bull fucking shit. Look into what Tartaria could do and get back to me. Now, physically speaking, for most people, like I said before, this is going to be something you use on occasion. Eventually, people will have the pods in their house, and maybe once a week they go in and the pod does a quick scan and then fixes whatever you damaged. Okay, cool, done. Do you need to use it every day? Why? You don't. No, absolutely not, you don't. Now, if they use this frequency for rejuvenation, I have a feeling that certain people, women, are going to be in it a lot more often. It's just the way it is. Vanity is a thing. Enough said on that one. Now, let's talk a little bit more in the medical institutions before I keep going on. Now, let's look back in the medical institutions, because I want to hit one point. When this technology comes out, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, doctors are going to be out of work. Bullshit. Doctors will not be out of work. Doctors will never be out of work because people still do stupid shit. Frequency healing cannot pull something out of you and safely close you up really fast so you don't bleed out. No, you still need a doc for that. They're still going to have to go in. Sometimes cancers that have changed enough where they're not sure what frequency to use, they'll still have to go in and take it out. It's just the way it is. Okay? People get in a car accident. Docs are still going to have to do emergency surgery to make sure all your parts are back in place before the frequency can do anything. Afterwards, yes, the frequency will actually do a lot. And that's why in the medical industry, things will change from hospital stays to physical therapy. Because one of the main key ingredients on this is the fact that, say you lose a leg. You lose almost at the crotch. It's between the knee and the groin. You lose your leg. And you use this to regenerate the leg. Guess what? Atrophy's still a thing. And if you don't know what atrophy is, that's when you don't use a limb so long that all the muscle is broken down. Basically, you have the strength of a newborn child. It's going to take a long time to rebuild that muscle and get your flexibility back and everything like that. The best I can figure when I talk to physical therapists on that is 2 years. They say for people that are dealing with a lot of atrophy, sometimes it takes like 5 or 6 years. Now, using the frequency to be able to regrow the muscle faster will shorten that time. But is it going to be fast? No. And you're going to have a lot of people going into physical therapy, and they're going to make a lot of money. So that's where the medical industry is going to shift. One of the areas in the medical industry that a lot of us will be happy that it will die, actually it won't die, it'll just be severely hampered, is the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry, which is the biggest industry in the world, yes, I am including the military-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industry will lose a lot. And they're the ones who have been stopping this technology from coming in, because every time somebody comes with this technology, what happens? They're either bought out by one of these, and yes, you look, it's probably one of the shell companies, but it still comes back to, the people who make the little blue pills, which, by the way, frequency healing is not going to help you. You still might need the little blue pills. Just keep that in mind. But the pharmaceutical industry is going to take a major hit. You're talking at least 50% losses. However, I don't know about you, but I don't want to take a shit ton of pills. I take enough of them just for general purpose, trying to keep this meat suit intact. If I could just sit there, go into a resonate chamber for 30 minutes a week, probably just listen to a podcast. Well, actually, you couldn't do that because the frequencies would not work with each other. You just have to sit there in silence or take a nap. And then, just like a turkey, bing, you're done. Door's going to open. You go on, do your day. If I could do that instead of taking any type of pills, I'd do that in a heartbeat. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you would do the same thing. Especially when constant regeneration is going to keep you fairly young. However, it will not make you younger. Keep that in mind. Regeneration and rejuvenation, two different things. The best way to rejuvenate is not through frequency, but through genetic alteration via CRISPR, and that's a whole nother wargaming episode I'm not going to get into right now. Now, as far as financial institutions, they're not going to change as much. However, you're going to see a lot of these insurance companies take a lot of heat because they're not going to want to lower their rates, even though a lot of people will be like, oh, I fell down, I hurt my back. Well, the frequency resonator fixed your back. We're not paying you. We paid for the resonator to go and do what it does. You're fine. And if somebody goes like a week later and hurts themselves, well, guess what? It's not our problem. You're just trying to rip everybody off, and I'm sure there's going to be a couple different laws on that. But it's going to actually, over time, bring insurance premiums down lower. It's just the way it is. Think about it. You're not going to have as big a payout for car accidents if whoever cracked a rib because the airbag or got a concussion is suddenly, fixed in a matter of 3 hours. What the hell? You're done. It's a lot cheaper. So keep that in mind. Now, a lot of the politicians are going to be pissed off on that, by the way, because they're not going to be able to rip off as many people. But honestly, they're politicians. Fuck them. Now, the family, this is where it gets interesting. Okay? And this is where most people are going to have their issues with it. Consider, if you will, that financially, you don't have to pay for something like, say, your kid gets in an accident and they become a quadriplegic. Okay? No, you don't have to pay for that. You just have to pay for the residents to fix them. People that have in the Army we call it EFMP, somebody who is mentally off. The residency can fix that. Okay, there's not that big financial burden anymore. You're not going to need any special equipment or anything like that. And the key thing is, once you make sure your kids are physically good, the parents are going to focus on themselves a little more. And with all the regeneration, they're not going to visibly age. This is going to lead to some very, 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 very interesting dynamics. Anybody who's watched anything on The Hub or anything like that knows exactly where I'm going. You're going to get some really screwed up situations, really, really jacked up in the head by today's standards. However, don't be surprised when that shit is almost forced on you to be normalized, which honestly makes me want to puke. Now, a lot of people in families where they expected to become the head of the household, especially the super rich families, you're going to see them start tearing themselves apart because they're not going to want to give it up. They did a movie on this a long time ago where people didn't age as long as they had the money. And it was the same thing. So keep that in mind. Okay, the family dynamic is going to become a lot easier to handle because there's no extra physical expense. You might pay for dental insurance and health insurance, but that's just to cover emergency surgery and whatnot. But the cost is going to be subterranean compared to now. then everyone's going to be in great health. You can go out camping and stuff like that. You won't have to worry about somebody having an allergic reaction because they should be able to fix that. Somebody cut themselves. Oh, you don't have to rush them to the hospital because you have a dermal regenerator in your pack. Now, before leaving, there's one last area to touch, and the mental aspect. Okay? And that is the fact that this technology has the potential to release what is dormant inside us. Things like telepathy, cymatics, telekinesis, things like that. People do out-of-body experiences more and more common nowadays because they're opening that part of the brain. They're opening that part of the heart. However, it takes a lot to do that because you have to live very clean to do that. You have to stay away from certain things because they cloud everything in your brain. But once you can heal the body, this has a lot of potential. To include things like moving through time. Mentally, at least. Not physically. That's different. Do not get that confused. Mentally, you might be able to go back in time and actually see what actually happened. Now, I can guarantee you, I've done a lot of research on this. Anybody who claims that they can go and look at a crime scene says they do that about 3 or 4 times and they can't handle it anymore. They are not designed for that sort of thing. That's fine. We're all built a little different. But there are a lot of politicians that are worried because we will see completely right through their bullshit even better than social media is allowing us to do now. Keep that in mind. We'll be able to know when they're freaking lying. And those that believe themselves better than everybody else, super wealthy family, and, putting themselves in well-placed politics, leaders by birthright and all that other crap, are most likely going to be they're most likely going to be deposed from their position. And that right there is the main reason why, not just financially, but they want to keep themselves, as they figure, on top. Nothing scares them more, and they're the ones who will end all this quick. Now, I'm going to go by my notes on this, and I want to see this technology come out. Why? Because I'm tired of us living basically in the year 1025, because when they started putting what people thought was a 1 is actually an I, and that's where our calendar got screwed up. But I'm tired of living barely out of the friggin' industrial age. Okay? Technology has improved greatly. However, I don't know what's going to truly happen. This is wargaming. This is scenarios. This is to make you think. If you're listening while driving, I guarantee you're going to stop. Hold on. In my situation with this technology, this might happen here. Great. That's what wargaming is about. And I look forward to seeing what's going to happen. I look forward to seeing most diseases destroyed almost overnight. I look forward to seeing those born and found to be handicapped to be able to live full lives. Don't get me wrong, the people in St. Jude's do a great job, but I'd rather fix those fucking kids and get it over with, not treat them for something. Using technology that is, 40, 50, 60, probably 100 years old. I look forward to seeing those that have kept humanity constrained crap themselves at realizing that the party is fucking over. I look forward to seeing humanity react to all this. As horrible, as spectacular as it might be, I'm looking forward to it. Why? Because even though all technology, all of it, is a double-edged sword, I truly believe the dull edge will be pointed at us. And I believe it will benefit all of us far greater than anyone can even realize in this moment, myself included. All right. I've been going on for about a half an hour, so I'm going to leave it there. I want you all to think about it. How will this change your life? For better? For worse? However, I think for most of us, just for the better. Until then, this is Syntext. Punching out. Oh yeah, before I go, I need to send out some special thank yous to the supporters of this channel, and those would be Prozac and Pancakes, Sir Brian Kemp, SS Demon, MTF Guard, Guardian Sage, Douglas Scarborough, and Erica Gem. Thank you again for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I'll see you on the next one.